Sandy Hook School. Callers indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building.
Like, everybody heard the bullets.
Yeah.
They, like, went into a total panic.
We thought it was a day that was going to forever change America, and believe it or not, it has been just 15 months since the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary, and as those painful scenes slip further from memories here for many, so does the resolve, it seems, to really do anything about gun violence. And Andrew, in a funny way, you look closer, forget about doing something about it. We're going the other way.
Yeah, I mean, you remember all those calls we heard for gun control after Newtown as we waited to see what lawmakers and the NRA would do, and the 90+% calling for background checks? That was, it seems, a long, long time ago. Since Newtown, 21 states have actually passed laws expanding gun rights. That's the opposite of gun control. In total, they passed 70 new state laws expanding gun rights, while only 39 laws tightening them have passed. All this as Washington has done nothing. And now the state of Georgia is putting that gun-loving attitude on steroids with a new law that Congresswoman turned gun victim turned gun control advocate Gabrielle Giffords and her advocacy group are calling the Guns Everywhere bill. It is, in their eyes, quote, the most extreme gun bill in America. That law will allow loaded guns in bars, guns in airports, allow school staffers to carry guns, and will legalize silencers for guns. And there's more. The Georgia law will actually expand the controversial Stand Your Ground law, extending that to people on public transit systems and letting felons use the defense. It also removes any criminal penalties for anyone who brings a gun into an airport security zone. All this as the body count keeps climbing, and an estimated 39,421 people have now died in the U.S. from gun violence since Newtown. That figure includes 3,536 children. That is the same number as if we had suffered 177 Newtowns in that time. Rich?
You know, at the risk of making this repetitive argument that we've done on this program with you guys dozens of times here, I'm more interested in why. We all agree it's insane what's going on in Georgia right now. The idea that you're gonna let a college kid pack heat, loaded gun, go into a bar. So you got hormones, you got alcohol, and you've got a 19-year-old kid, and he's having a gun, and that's good policy. I can keep going on silencer. Okay. So if we agree for the most part that's insane, I want to know what happened, we think, beyond the obvious, with the benefit of reflection, after more than a year when everybody agreed it was going to really change. What lessons did we learn that we went from there, the days after Newtown, to here, which is what we just saw, and in all likelihood is going to get the signature from the governor in Georgia?
When you combine a social attitude that including on things like women's rights and gun rights and gay marriage with the leadership of a major political party, eventually there will be places within the nation where that political party will do what it wants to do, which is what's happening. What's going on in Georgia.
You've recently gone to Montana, which kind of fits the spec here of a deep red state. Is it fear of government that drives this?
You won't see this kind of law in Montana. Montana, the more rural Western attitude towards guns, which is much more open and liberal than you'd see in New York, I'll give you that, does not include crazy stuff like this. There's a notion that guns are part of the daily life of the West. When you see it in the red states, and Montana's not a red state, it's got 2 Democratic senators right now and a Democratic governor, you'll see a much more balanced, principled position. This is NRA nuttiness. It's possible, I think, to be against gun control and not be crazy. That's not the case in Georgia.
You've seen bills pass and fail for all different reasons. I mean, look what we talked about today. You've seen movement on legalizing marijuana, gay marriage. It's when, not if, this thing's going to be the law of land everywhere, okay? But yet, we're going in an opposite direction with a moment that all of us said, well, that will change America. Then we saw, after that happened, the NRA response. When LaPierre went out, we said, oh my God, if you needed it. Every poll said between 70 and 90% on every gun issue. I don't have to remind everybody. But yet here we are, where something like that could happen. Can you put your finger on what either didn't happen that should have, or what we misread as to down deep drives this?
We misread once again the power of the NRA.
as it relates to their influence on a major political party, Republicans, and on some Democrats in the South. A buddy of mine, a good friend, is a police officer for the transit system in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've asked him a number of these questions. He says, Dom, you've got to understand it's a different culture about guns here. They believe that if someone breaks into your house, they should be shot by that homeowner that has a gun. They believe that they should have a right to exercise their constitutional right to carry a weapon. They feel just the opposite, Richard, and they really do, of how we do with weapons.
Respectfully, I think Richard and Dominic sort of point out the boogeymen in this debate, which is it's the fault of the Republican Party or it's the fault of the NRA. But we've all seen policies where that sentiment is overcome because the public wants it to be overcome. And granted, there were some things like background checks where you thought you had the ability to do it. There are the people who are fervently pro-gun and are always going to be pro-gun. There are people who are fervently anti-gun who are always going to be anti-gun. The reason this debate hasn't moved is because the people in the middle haven't been moved far enough to go for.
I'm with you, and I put a lot of that. And I put a lot of at the leader and the commander-in-chief of the country who. Whether it wasn't easy, but somebody had to push this over the end.
Here's where you and I disagree, and I know we disagree a lot on this. I think a lot of the people in the middle of this debate who really don't care that much one way or another get caught because of the Second Amendment and because there is a constitutional right to carry a gun, and they assume that means that all default measures when it comes to guns should be on the pro-gun side. And I honestly think that any legitimate effort for gun control in this country has to go after the Second Amendment, or at least erode the notion that it's held sacrosanct and should be in this country.
Well, listen, Richard is correct in this, in that leadership matters in this, because as someone who believes in the Second Amendment, I don't believe, and I have arguments with my friends on the right on this, is that does not give you the right to carry any damn weapon that you want. It doesn't mean that the government can say that we need to do an extensive background check on you to make sure that you're not medicated, or a number of reasons why you shouldn't have a weapon. But that takes leadership. That takes convincing the American public that what I'm doing is right without attacking individuals who have a right to bear arms.
The American populace is persuaded, Tom.
What's that?
It's the House of Representatives that's not. The American public has spoken in support of common sense gun measures. The House of Representatives will not adopt it for reasons that have to do with politics and policy. They're entitled to their views, but don't blame the American public.
I do blame the American public.
I do too.
Because the American public continues to elect those people. It is the job of the commander-in-chief, if he feels strongly about something, don't talk about it for a couple of days and a couple of weeks after a Newtown happens. Talk about it consistently. This president moves on and off issues like Syria for 5 minutes, and then we move on. As you know, the American public
has
a
longer
very...
than I thought it would take you to make this all Obama's fault.
But you know what?
It's
not Obama's fault. But I'm saying is
what's going on in
don't
Georgia is
blame
not
Republicans.
Obama's fault.
It's not Obama's fault. But Georgia gets to elect who they like to represent. And we have a system. They want to pass crazy laws in the state of Georgia. Then God bless them. I don't want to live there and live under that. I don't want to walk into an airport and have people walking around with guns.
And you don't see a correlation between the states in which that's happening and the ascendancy of the Tea Party and the Republican Party.
No.
You don't see a correlation.
For me, though,
none at
there
all.
was a window in time.
Not at all.
There was a window in time that the American public heard both arguments. They heard the president, they heard Wayne LaPierre, and I remember some Republicans even said, we can do better than that. We can still have a gun, but it doesn't have to be this way. And there was a time that we could have done more. It's Monday morning quarterbacking, calling it whatever you want, but we're here where we are right now, in part because that window of time where 75% of NRA members believed in background checks, and we, or whoever, didn't do it. And you know what? Whether it's fair or not, it goes to the top, and we should be in a better place than we are right now.
The reason we didn't do it, as I said way back then, was instead of talking about cartridges, gun models, this gun, that gun, we should have focused on background checks. That's what he should have put all of his time and effort, because the vast majority of people, the vast majority of Republicans were supportive of that. But he wanted to talk about guns and which gun can you own and that.
I want to save a little time. When we come back, I want to talk about what's going on in Albany, because Governor Cuomo was getting heat here, not just from Republicans, but arguably even stronger from Democrats. Progressives and conservatives here are not happy with the man in your screen. We'll tell you why.